Hi, I'm Fraser Douglas, the avid tent camper. In this video, I want to tell you about my experiences with cast iron cookware and some of the things that I have learned over the last 3 years of using it. I used aluminum frying pans both at home and for camping for about 40 years. But about 10 years ago, I became aware of possible health concerns associated with the use of aluminum frying pans, particularly health concerns related to the flaking of the Teflon coating. So I began searching the web for information about campfire cooking and noticed that many campfire cooks like to use cast iron skillets. And so I decided to give them a try. I first looked in my kitchen cabinets and found this very nice 10 1/8 inch number 7 Lodge skillet with a very smooth cooking surface, a heat ring, and 3 notches. For the next 2 years, I used this skillet as my only kitchen skillet and have cooked a wide variety of foods in it. I also found this newer 6 1/2 inch Lodge skillet with a rough cooking surface. Although it's too small for camping, I've used it for melting butter in my home. After using the old Lodge for about a year, I decided to buy another skillet for camping. I wanted a skillet that was large enough to cook foods for 4 to 5 people, but small enough to fit into this 12 by 12 inch milk crate. I had hoped to find a Griswold or Wagner, but after looking, I realized that the prices are way too high, and I can get a very nice camp skillet for a fraction of their cost. I first bought this 10 1/2 inch Lodge griddle, but quickly realized that it had several limitations for camping. First, it was limited in terms of what foods could be cooked on it. Second, it rusted overnight. Third, food stuck on it. And finally, it was very difficult to clean, especially the bottom side that was used to put grill marks on meat. So I decided to leave it at home and find something else. But I have since discovered that it is great for cooking pancakes. Next, I decided to buy this 10 inch Matford Bourget carbon steel skillet and cut the handle off so that it would fit into my milk crate. I plan to use pliers to handle it when it was hot. It's a great pan for frying small amounts of food, but it is a sauté pan with sloped edges that make it difficult to cook large quantities of food. So I welded the handle back on, added it to our kitchen collection, and have used it to cook eggs, bacon, grilled cheese sandwiches, and other foods. This little video clip shows how easy it is to flip a grilled cheese sandwich. Well, there.
Very good. Stop.
Next, I bought this very smooth Birmingham Stove and Range 10 inch skillet off of eBay. We used it for 2 or 3 camping trips, but then decided that it was too nice a piece to risk damage from camping. And so we decided to add it to our home collection. And finally, I decided to go back to that old 10 1/4 inch 3-notch Lodge skillet that had been in my kitchen collection for many years. We have now used this Lodge as our camping skillet for about a year, and I don't anticipate making any more changes. It is great. When you buy a cast iron pan, you usually have to follow a few procedures in order to get a good nonstick surface. These procedures, called seasoning, typically involve applying a light coat of oil, heating the pan, and then letting it cool. If you buy a new pan, just follow the instructions that come with the pan. If the cooking surface is rough, Some people like to sand it down to make it smoother. If you buy a used rusty pan, you can use coarse salt and water, sandpaper, vinegar, or electrolysis to remove the rust. And if you buy a used pan that is sticky from baked on food, put it in your oven and turn on the self-cleaning cycle. I prefer to buy used pans that have been well cared for and have a very smooth cooking surface, and I can usually find a nice selection of these pans on eBay. When your pan is ready to start cooking, experts recommend that you begin with bacon or fried potatoes in salt. We've just finished cooking some sausage, and so now I need to clean the pan before we can cook our eggs. First thing I'm going to do is pour the grease into this cup. And we'll use that grease when we get ready to start cooking the eggs. Now I've got to wipe the grease and grime out of this pan. Then I'm going to use a paint scraper to remove anything that's stuck on. I'm going to pour some hot water in here. And scrub it with a brush. Now I'm going to put it back on the fire to start warming up and to dry that water. And I'm going to pour some of this sausage grease back in here so we can start cooking our eggs. I do not wash the pan with soap because I don't want a soap residue that may alter the taste of food cooked in it in the future. Before cooking anything in my pan, I preheat it and then put some sort of oil in the pan before putting the food in there. Well, I've got a clean pan here with a little bit of sausage grease in it, and so I'm going to break my egg. I'm going to remove it from the fire. And now move it back over the fire. I just want to show you what a non-stick cast iron surface is like. That egg just slides perfectly. Oops, cooked it a little bit too long on that side. And now let me talk a little bit about Dutch ovens. I camped for 50 years without a Dutch oven and could have continued to camp for the rest of my life without one. Whenever I thought about getting one, all I could think of were the negatives. It was heavy, it required extra packing space, it would require extra effort to clean and maintain it, and I would rarely need it. But after cooking several delicious foods in my cast iron skillet, I began to think about some of the foods that I could cook with a Dutch oven, namely lasagna, biscuits, and various desserts. And so I began considering them more seriously. Again, I wanted a Dutch oven that was large enough to cook foods for 4 to 5 people, but small enough to fit into this milk crate. And a 10-inch diameter Dutch oven seemed perfect, but they came in 3 sizes, 4-quart, 5-quart, and 6-quart. I wanted a Dutch oven that I could use at home and in the campsite, and so I decided not to buy a camp oven with the 3 legs. After looking around for a while, I decided to buy this unnamed 5-quart Dutch oven because I thought it might be a Wagner. I found it on eBay for a reasonable price and could see that it was in excellent condition. When it arrived, I washed it real good and then cooked a loaf of bread. But the next day, I placed the lid down on top of some other dishes on the counter, and it fell off of the counter and landed on my tile floor and cracked from the handle all the way out to the edge. Boy, was I heartbroken. After accepting the fact that this crack could not be repaired, I bought this 10 1/4 inch Lodge replacement lid on Amazon.com, and it fit perfectly. After finding a replacement lid, I bought 4 more items that would allow me to bake in my campsite. First of all, I got a 11 1/2 inch cake pan that I'll use to hold the coals for the bottom of the Dutch oven. Next, I bought a Lodge lid stand that I'll use to hold the Dutch oven above those coals. Then I bought a cake pan ring to put on the top lid to hold the coals on the top of the lid. And then I bought an 8-inch cake pan that I'll use to hold the food that I'm baking inside the Dutch oven. Here's what it looks like when I'm baking. I use a small crowbar that's in my tool bag to lift or rotate the top lid. And this is what a batch of brownies looks like when it's done. Here are some biscuits we just cooked. A few months later, I bought this beautiful, unmarked 4-quart Dutch oven, but then realized that it was not suited for my camp kitchen because it did not have a bailed handle, but I use it frequently in our home kitchen. It's great for cooking fish and several other foods. Before concluding, let me just state that we only use our cast iron for frying or baking. We use enamelware pots for boiling beans and other foods. Let me also just state that baking with firewood takes much longer than baking with charcoal because you have to have a campfire going for about an hour before you'll have enough wood coals to use to bake for 30 minutes. For more information about camp cooking, please visit my website and also read my book, Basic Tent Camping. Remember, take more trips, travel further, visit more attractions, and save money. Go tent camping.